I never liked Fu Yang, nor did I like the child he forced me to bear through his tyrannical ways. He was a boy, named Crown Prince the moment he was born. I loathed him so much that I dumped him into the Empress Dowager's arms without sparing a single glance. Later, my heart turned to ashes and I set fire to Phoenix Perch Palace, burning myself alive. He cried as he charged into the inferno, screaming for me. His mother, the fire blinded one of his eyes. He never forgave his father for the rest of his life. When Fu Yang was on his deathbed, the boy knelt beside him, his voice soft yet cold. Father, mother never loved you. Because of you, I was born without a mother's care. I have never once heard the lullabies that mothers sing to their children. Now, I have been given a second chance. Looking at the timid little boy peeking at me from behind the screen, my eyes brimmed with complicated emotions as I spoke. From now on, you will live with mother. Is that all right? His eyes lit up in an instant. The child is innocent. He never should have borne the consequences of the hatred between his father and me. I was originally betrothed to Prince Ning, Fu Yang's own younger brother, but at a palace banquet, Fu Yang laid eyes on me and, in a fit of obsession, forced me to marry him as his empress. I never liked Fu Yang. In fact, I hated him. A year after entering the palace, he threatened the lives of my father and brothers to force me to give him an heir. The moment the child was born, I loathed him so deeply that I handed him over to the Empress Dowager, refusing to even look at him again. 6 years into my imprisonment in the palace, news arrived that Prince Ning had died in battle at the border. When I heard the news, I snapped my jade comb in half in a fit of grief and rage. That child happened to come to pay his respects to me. Timidly calling out Mother Empress, I screamed at him to get out, my voice cracking with madness. 10 years into my confinement, Fu Yang brought his illegitimate half-sister into the palace, conferring upon her the title of noble consort and putting her in charge of all palace affairs. Sister, you may be the legitimate daughter of your family, but what does that matter? The concubine simpered, flaunting her newfound power in front of me. Last night, His Majesty said that in bed. You are not even half as satisfying as I am. I listened to her calmly, saying nothing. That very night, I lit a fire and burned myself alive in Phoenix Perch Palace. I thought I would finally be free, but I never expected that child to rush into the burning palace, his delicate skin scorched by the flames. Screaming my name in despair, "Mother," with my last ounce of strength, I pushed him into the arms of a eunuch who had come to rescue him, then walked resolutely back into the fire. I died. The concubine was put to death. That child lost one of his eyes to the fire. From that day on, he never forgave his father for as long as he lived. When Fu Yang lay dying, the boy knelt beside his bed, his voice cold as ice. Father, mother never loved you, trapped in this palace by you. She was never happy for a single day. Because of you, I was born without a mother's love. I have never once heard the lullabies that mothers sing to their children. I jolted awake, gasping for breath. My back was soaked in cold sweat. Haju lit a lamp and hurried over, her voice laced with worry. Your Majesty, you have been having these nightmares repeatedly. Shouldn't we summon the imperial physician to take a look at you? No need, I replied, shaking my head. You may retire. There is no need to stay up for me. Haju withdrew, her face still etched with concern. Silence descended upon the room. I got out of bed and walked to the vanity, staring at my own reflection, pale, delicate, unmarred by the scars of the past. Once again, I was acutely aware of the truth. I have been reborn to the 5th year of my imprisonment in the palace, after being seized by Fu Yang. That child is only 4 years old. Prince Ning is still alive, not yet fallen in battle at the border. Fu Yang has not yet given up on me. He has not brought his half-sister into the palace, and he still loves me with that same obsessive, twisted fervor. I closed my eyes slowly, my mind made up. Early the next morning, I ordered Haju to dress me, then went to Chenqian Palace to seek an audience with Fu Yang. For 5 years, everyone in the palace has known that the emperor and empress are estranged, so when I suddenly appeared at his palace gates, the maids and eunuchs of Chenqian Palace trembled like leaves in the wind, fearing the worst. Fu Yang was equally surprised. He frowned deeply, his voice sharp with irritation. If you have come here only to pick a fight with me, You may leave at once, the South is suffering from a terrible flood, and I have no patience for your tantrums. In the past, hearing such words would have sent me into a rage. I would have screamed at him, demanding that he let me go. But now, I cleared my throat, speaking of my own accord. Hunger is already 4 years old. It is time for him to be raised by his own mother. I have come today to ask your Majesty's permission to bring the Crown Prince back to Phoenix Perch Palace. Fu Yang froze. Then let out a low laugh after a long moment, a laugh filled with sarcasm. It is a wonder that the Empress still remembers the Crown Prince exists. But the Crown Prince has been raised by the Empress Dowager for so long. Even if you are his birth mother, the bond between you has long since faded. This matter is not appropriate. He refused me. He did it on purpose. That bastard was trying to force me to beg him. I fell silent for a moment, digging the sharp tips of my nail guards into my palm to keep my temper in check. Your Majesty, let us have a proper talk. Fu Yang loves me so deeply that he committed the folly of stealing his own brother's fiancée. In my previous life, I spent 10 years quarreling with him, only to end up dead. My soul scattered to the winds, with nothing to show for it. In this life, even if it is only for the sake of the child, I truly do not want to fight anymore. I wish to take the Crown Prince back to Phoenix Perch Palace to raise him. He is my own flesh and blood. He should be close to his mother. Fu Yang showed no reaction, continuing to read the memorials spread out on his desk without sparing me a single glance. I took a deep breath, stepping forward. I snatched the memorial from his hand, my voice softening as I asked, "Does your Majesty not wish to see mother and son reconcile? No new concubines have been admitted to the palace in all these years. And Hanger is your Majesty's only child. I see clearly the affection your Majesty holds for me. I also wish to try to live in harmony with your Majesty. Does your Majesty not wish for that too?" Finally, he looked up at me, but his lips curled into a sneer. "Another one of your tricks. How long do you plan to keep up this pretense this time? Wait until I have fallen for your lies again. Then run away to the border to find third brother, Mu Warning. Don't even dream of it." He called me by my given name directly. He was clearly angry. My first instinct was to curse him. The words tyrant were already on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them back down with great effort. I cannot go on like this. I bit my lip, stepping forward to tug at the sleeve of his dragon robe, my voice growing even softer, tinged with a hint of entreaty. "I am not lying to you this time. I will prove it to your Majesty. First, let me take Hanger back to Phoenix Perch Palace. I cannot rest easy knowing he is in the Empress Dowager's care." As he listened to my gentle words, his breathing grew heavier, and his eyes reddened slightly. After a long while, he turned his head sharply to the side, his voice gruff and harsh. "Do as you please." In the Empress Dowager's palace, the Crown Prince was playing with a tiger head hat in his nanny's arms, the moment he saw me. His eyes widened in shock. He wanted to rush over to me, but he dared not, only calling out timidly, "Mother Empress." A wave of heartache washed over me. I walked over and knelt down to embrace him. "Hunger, will you come back to Phoenix Perch Palace with mother today?" His eyes lit up like bright grapes brought as tribute from southern Hangzhou. He replied in his childish voice, his tone brimming with excitement. "Yes, sister." A voice filled with surprise suddenly rang out behind me. It was my illegitimate half-sister. "What brings you here to visit the Crown Prince today, sister?" she asked, fanning herself lazily as she sauntered over to me, her voice dripping with false concern. "Children are always so noisy. Why bother taking him back to your palace and ruining your peaceful nights? The Empress Dowager's palace is quiet and serene, the perfect place to raise a child." I stroked the Crown Prince's head, ignoring her completely. In my previous life, it was she who used these very words to fool Fu Yang, keeping the Crown Prince in the Empress Dowager's palace for years on end. The Empress Dowager cared little for worldly affairs. Fu Yang rarely visited, and I refused to have anything to do with the child. By the time the Crown Prince turned 10, he had no one to call family except for the palace servants. Later, after she seduced Fu Yang and entered the palace as his concubine, she sneered and told me the truth. I deliberately kept the Crown Prince isolated from everyone, making him grow up withdrawn and paranoid, so that the court officials would never accept him. Only the child I bear will be worthy of the title of Crown Prince. When I give birth to a son, sister, so what if you are the legitimate daughter? By then, you will still be on your knees, groveling at my feet." At that time, she had just been named noble consort and was already drunk on her own power, triumphant beyond measure. That was why, before I set fire to myself, I also sent her a bolt of white silk to hang herself with. I no longer wished to live, but that did not mean I would let others continue to torment me. "Mother Empress." The Crown Prince suddenly clung to my arm, his voice filled with urgency. I want to live with Mother Empress. I will not be noisy. I will never disturb Mother Empress." He was so anxious, his small hands gesturing wildly as he spoke, his eyes brimming with tears of fear. He stared at me unblinkingly, begging me not to abandon him. "Mother Empress will never abandon you." "Hunger," I whispered, stroking his head gently. "Mother will take you home today. Is that all right?" The Empress Dowager had always cared little for palace politics. After informing her of my decision, I picked up the Crown Prince and prepared to leave. My half-sister suddenly stepped forward, leaning in to whisper in my ear, her voice dripping with malice. "Sister, Prince Ning sent a letter to His Majesty a few days ago. He asked about you. Prince Ning still pines for you. If you wish to write back to him, sister, I can help you smuggle the letter out of the palace. I will make sure His Majesty never finds out." I shot her a cold glance, a faint laugh escaping my lips. "No need," I replied flatly. "I have nothing to say to Prince Ning, and you need not trouble yourself to help me. As for you, you come running to the palace every day. Your mind filled with nothing but schemes and plots. I will arrange a marriage for you. You may return home and prepare for your wedding in peace." Her face turned deathly pale in an instant. "Sister, Haju," I ordered, my voice sharp, "confiscate second Mrs. Palace token. From now on, she is forbidden from entering the palace without my imperial edict." "Yes, Your Majesty," Haju replied, bowing deeply. After giving my orders, I had no desire to watch my half-sister's panicked expression. I picked up the child and walked out of the palace, boarding my palanquin. Inside the palanquin, watching the Crown Prince's excited face, I stroked his head, thinking of my half-sister's words just now. It was true I had nothing to say to Prince Ning, but it was also true that he could not be allowed to remain at the border any longer. In my previous life, he had been ambushed by enemy forces and killed in battle. His body never recovered after his death. His subordinates brought back a concentric knot and a portrait of me. A line of poetry was inscribed on the portrait. "We tied the knot as husband and wife, bound by a love that knows no doubt." Fu Yang had gone mad with rage and torn the portrait to shreds, but the regret I felt when I heard of Prince Ning's death lingered in my heart, tormenting me day and night for the rest of my life. He was the Emperor's own blood brother, born of the same mother. He should have had a bright future ahead of him, with a wife and children to call his own. Instead, he had been dragged down by me, forced to linger in the bitter cold of the border, accompanied only by wind and snow until his dying breath. It was not right. Without a moment's hesitation, I made up my mind. I must make Fu Yang recall him to the capital. In my previous life, Fu Yang and I had quarreled for 10 long years. Both of us were to blame for the rift between us. I was too stubborn, too unwilling to bend. Consumed by my resentment, I refused to soften my heart towards him, and he was too cold, too proud. Even after snatching me away to be his empress, he could never bring himself to lower his dignity and speak a single gentle word to me. Quarreling had become a habit for us, and the only one who suffered was the child. The memory of my previous life flashed before my eyes, the Crown Prince, cowering in fear as he watched Fu Yang and me fight, crying hysterically as he clung to my hand, screaming "Mother," and my heart twisted with pain all over again. Back in Phoenix Perch Palace, I arranged for the palace servants to take care of the Crown Prince's needs. I sat on the couch, watching him pinch the tiger's nose on his hat, a small, content smile playing on his lips. He stole glances at me every now and then, his eyes brimming with sheer joy and excitement. I couldn't resist reaching out to ruffle his hair. Suddenly, Haju walked in, her voice trembling slightly as she reported, "Your Majesty, His Imperial Majesty has sent word. The Empress Dowager is sending a letter to Prince Ning. If your highness wishes to send a letter to his royal highness as well, it can be delivered together. He spoke with obvious trepidation. My first reaction upon hearing this was that Fu Yang was having one of his fits again. He had trapped my body within the palace walls, but he knew full well he could never cage my heart, so he lived in a constant state of paranoia, flying into a jealous rage at the slightest hint of a threat. When he lost his temper, he would take it out on me, using those filthy, degrading tricks he'd picked up from brothels. Then I would scream and fight with him, and the vicious cycle would start all over again. I pressed my fingertips to my throbbing temples, turning to He and saying, "Prepare paper and ink at once. I will write the letter now, then send it to His Imperial Majesty personally. Your Highness, go and make the preparations." I cut her off with a wave of my hand. "Take the child to his nanny to be put to bed, and instruct the servants to attend to him carefully." Left with no other choice, He picked up the crown prince and withdrew. As soon as I finished writing the letter, I had it sent to Chenqian Palace immediately. Then I removed my hairpins and jade ornaments, leaning back against the bed to rest for a while. Before long, I was jolted awake by a cold, icy sensation around my wrist. It was Fu Yang. He bent down to loom over me, his eyes dark and stormy as he stared at me. With ruthless efficiency, he fastened a gold chain, crafted specially by the palace artisans, around my wrist. The other end was bolted to the bedpost. When I opened my eyes, I found myself staring directly into Fu Yang's menacing gaze. "Mu Warning," he hissed, his voice dripping with malice. "You are provoking me again. What pleasure do you get from angering me?" He grabbed my chin, his fingers digging painfully into my skin. "Is it only when I strip you naked and lock you in a cage that you will finally behave?" I stared at him, speechless. That line again. I had heard the words "lock you in a cage" countless times over 2 lifetimes. Yet he had never once dared to follow through on the threat. I had no idea why he kept saying it. I shook my head violently, wrenching my aching chin out of his grasp, and snapped, "What have I done to offend your Imperial Majesty this time?" He glowered at me, his face like thunder, but remained silent. "Your Imperial Majesty, Your Highness." Fu Yang. Frustration bubbled up inside me. "What on earth do you want from me?" To my surprise, his expression softened slightly at the sound of his name on my lips. He let out a sardonic laugh, saying, "Still clinging to those tedious titles of Your Imperial Majesty and your humble concubine in our bedchamber? Must you be so intent on ruining the mood?" I stared at him, at a loss for words. Taking a deep breath to calm my racing heart, I forced the conversation back on track. "Are you angry because I wrote a letter to Prince Ning?" He remained silent, a tacit admission of guilt. "You were the one who told me to send the letter in the first place," I exclaimed, sitting up straighter and shaking the gold chain around my wrist, trying to reason with him. "I did as you asked, and now you're furious. Do you not see how unreasonable that is? I get angry, so I chain you up, then I take you." Over and over again. "Fu Yang, you are a human being. When there is a problem, you solve it. You do not act like a rutting stallion." And my words were cut off by his lips crashing down on mine, fierce and unyielding. I was so angry that I beat my fists against his shoulders, even sinking my teeth into his lips and tongue in a futile attempt to make him stop. I tasted blood in my mouth, but he refused to let me go, kissing me harder and deeper. "Mu Warning," he growled against my lips, his voice feral with possessiveness. "You are mine. Whether you have me in your heart or not, whether you are still thinking of him, you are mine. Dreaming of leaving me to run off with him and live happily ever after. Don't even think about it." When I woke up again, it was already nightfall. My waist ached fiercely, my legs were sore, and my arms were covered in ugly purple bruises from his rough handling. Trembling with rage, I grabbed the vase on the bedside table and smashed it to the ground without a second thought. "Mother Empress," a soft, timid voice suddenly called out to me, freezing me in place. I blinked in surprise, turning to see the crown prince peeking out from behind the folding screen, only the top of his head visible. He covered his eyes with his small fingers, asking shyly, "Mother Empress, have you gotten dressed yet? May I come in?" I pressed a hand to my heaving chest, forcing down the bitter resentment that threatened to consume me. wrapping a robe around my shoulders. I walked over to him and pulled the small boy into my arms. I asked him gently, my voice soft with concern, "Hunger. What are you doing here? Have you eaten your dinner?" "I've eaten," he replied, looking up at me with his big, bright eyes. "Sister Haju said that Father Emperor is with Mother Empress, so I wanted to come see you." I froze for a moment, then asked him, my heart heavy with complicated emotions, "Hunger. Do you like your Father Emperor very much?" He nodded vigorously, twisting his fingers shyly and hanging his head, his cheeks flushing a faint pink. "The nanny told me that Father Emperor used to fight battles at the border," he said earnestly, his voice filled with admiration. "He saved so many people. He is a great hero who defends our country. When I grow up, I want to be just like Father Emperor." He spoke with such enthusiasm, his eyes shining with pure, unadulterated longing. It was a far cry from the bitter hatred he'd felt for Fu Yang in my previous life. I didn't know what to say. The anger I'd felt at being bitten by Fu Yang faded away, replaced by a dull, aching sadness in my chest. Letting out a soft sigh, I took his small hands in mine and squeezed them gently, saying, "Mother Empress believes that when Hunger grows up, you will be even more amazing than your Father Emperor." "Yes," he exclaimed, nodding his head so hard that his hair flopped over his forehead. He buried his face in my chest, nuzzling against me affectionately. "I will definitely be better than Father Emperor," he vowed solemnly. "Then I can protect Mother Empress." I dug my nails into my palm, hard enough to draw blood. His love and adoration for me were so unconditional, so pure, and they filled me with overwhelming guilt. I held him in my arms until he fell asleep, then quietly called for his nanny to come and carry him back to his own room to rest. I got out of bed and tidied my appearance, preparing to leave. It was only when I took a few steps that I noticed a small bell tied around my ankle with a red silk cord, its bright color standing out sharply against my pale, delicate skin. The sight of it sent a shiver down my spine, reminding me of the way Fu Yang's rough, calloused hands had wrapped around my ankle, slowly sliding upward. He loved me. He loved my body, my skin, my waist, my hips, my legs. He craved every inch of me, obsessed with the feel of my flesh beneath his hands. But what about the child I bore him, to Fu Yang? Was Hunger merely a blood tie that could never be severed, or was he just another tool to chain me to him, body and soul? I stared at the bell for a long time, a firm resolve hardening in my heart. I couldn't go on like this. I had to go see Fu Yang. If he refused to listen to reason, then I would force him to listen. I would make him be a good father no matter what it took. When I arrived at Chenqian Palace in my palanquin, the hall was bathed in bright candlelight, but the eunuch waiting beside Fu Yang's throne told me that His Imperial Majesty had already gone to bed. As he tried to block my way, beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. He was clearly terrified out of his wits. "Did His Imperial Majesty order you to say that?" I asked him calmly, my voice steady. "Does he not wish to see me?" The eunuch immediately dropped to his knees, begging me with tears in his eyes, "Your Highness, this servant is only following His Imperial Majesty's orders. Please have mercy on me." Fu Yang was avoiding me. In the past, after every time we'd had such a confrontation, I would either lock myself in the bathing pool and scrub my skin until it was red and raw from humiliation, or I would grab a sword and pick a fight with him, screaming curses at him until my throat was hoarse. He didn't want to be yelled at, so he was refusing to see me at all. "The coward, go and tell His Imperial Majesty this," I said, my voice cold and unyielding. "If he refuses to see me today, then I will never set foot in Chenqian Palace again. Your Highness, just go and deliver the message." I cut him off with a sigh. "You have my word, I am not here to cause trouble. I only want to check if His Imperial Majesty has eaten his supper. Now go and announce me." After being allowed into the palace, I walked past 2 folding screens and saw Fu Yang leaning against the bed, wearing a bright yellow night robe. His eyes were closed, and he held a folded memorial in his hand. He didn't even open his eyes when I approached, saying flatly, "If you want to yell at me, do it quickly, but I have no energy for another fight. I am in no mood for it today." I stared at him, speechless. "Your Imperial Majesty makes me sound like a shrew," I retorted, my voice laced with irritation. "Aren't you?" He shot back, finally opening his eyes to look at me. In these past 5 years, how many of my things have you smashed? Chenchen Palace doesn't dare to keep any porcelain anymore. The sword I've had since I was a child, you threw it into the Imperial Lake, and we still haven't fished it out. Fu Yang, I snapped, cutting him off before he could list any more of my crimes. Are you deliberately trying to start a fight with me? He fell silent. After a long moment, he set the memorial down on the table beside the bed, turning his face away from me so that I couldn't see his expression. I don't want to fight, he said quietly. It was only when he turned sideways, his face illuminated by the warm glow of the candlelight, that I noticed the dark, heavy bags under his eyes. They hung like shadows beneath his pale skin, stark and alarming. Reports of the devastating floods in the south had been pouring in non-stop lately. He had been working around the clock for days on end, barely sleeping at all, and then he'd spent the entire afternoon with me. He looked utterly exhausted. His eyes glazed over with fatigue as if he might collapse at any moment. Against my will, a flicker of compassion stirred in my heart. I walked slowly over to him and sat down on the edge of the bed, asking him softly, Your Imperial Majesty, would you like to sleep for a while? Are you planning to strangle me while I'm asleep? He shot back, glaring at me with fierce, distrustful eyes. Once I'm dead, you can run off with Prince Ning and live happily ever after, can't you? Mu warning. I'm warning you, don't even dream of it. I don't want to. I interrupted him firmly, cutting off his tirade. I don't want to strangle you, and I will never run off with Prince Ning. I just think that right now, you need to sleep. I pushed him gently down onto the bed, ignoring his protests. I knelt down to remove his boots for him, then pulled the blanket over his body, tucking it carefully around his shoulders. Go to sleep, Your Imperial Majesty, I said softly. Brushing a strand of hair off his forehead, I will stay here and wait for you to wake up. He stared at me with his dark, unblinking eyes for a long time, then suddenly reached out from under the blanket to grab my hand, pressing his cheek against my palm and nuzzling it like a cat seeking affection. Am I dreaming? He whispered, his voice thick with exhaustion and disbelief. Why are you being so kind to me? If this is a dream, I hope I never wake up in this drowsy, vulnerable state. He looked so much like Hanger, stripped of his sharp, thorny exterior. He lay on his back like a defenseless child, baring his soft, round belly, begging for love and affection like a lost puppy. A shiver ran down my spine. I must have gone mad. How could I possibly feel sorry for Fu Yang? He was the legitimate eldest son of the late emperor and the empress dowager, named Crown Prince the moment he was born. At 15, he had gone to the border to fight. At 18, he had defeated the Hu tribes in a single battle, capturing 8 cities in a row and earning the admiration of the entire court. His only blemish was that upon ascending the throne, he had issued an imperial edict to make me his empress, stealing his own younger brother's fiancée by force. Over these past 5 years, the empress dowager had pleaded with him to let me go. My father and brothers had remonstrated against his decision. Even Prince Ning had threatened to take his own life to make him see reason, but he had remained stubborn, clinging to me with a death grip, refusing to let go even though our lives together were nothing but endless bickering and strife. A crown prince raised on the emperor's strategy, yet at his core, he was nothing more than a delusional, obsessive fool in love. It was almost laughable. Fu Yang had fallen asleep at last, but I had no desire to rest. I sat down by the window, resting my chin in my hand as I watched the peach blossoms fluttering down outside, carried by the gentle evening breeze. A beautiful face mirrored in the peach blossoms' glow. Fu Yang had once told me that he'd first met me at Cold Mountain Temple on the outskirts of the capital. I had been standing beneath a peach blossom tree. 2 pink petals stuck to my forehead, laughing and chatting happily with Prince Ning. He had said that he had never felt even a hint of jealousy toward his own brother, until he saw me smile at him. The crown prince, who had always been a model of self-discipline and propriety, committed his first act of unforgivable transgression when he defied all moral bounds. By the time Fu Yang woke up, it was already very late. Determined to reconcile with him, I had waited for him to have dinner. Growing so hungry that I ended up lying on the table, counting the claws on the dragons embroidered on his imperial robe. A cool hand pressed against my cheek, I jolted in surprise. Turning around, I saw that Fu Yang was already awake, standing bathed in the bright glow of the candlelight. His eyes were still hazy with sleep as he gazed at me, his face unguarded, brimming with undisguised joy. Currying favor with me like this. What do you want? Promotions for your father and brothers? A marriage for your niece, or something else? Since I'm in a good mood right now, name your price. I'll grant it as a reward for being so obedient. I studied him carefully for a moment before speaking. Then, Your Imperial Majesty, recall Prince Ning to the capital. The moment the words left my mouth, Fu Yang's expression darkened. He was losing his temper again. Slowly, he raised his hand, his fingers wrapping around my neck in a vice-like grip. Mu Warning, you dare to provoke me again. Overestimating your own insignificance. Do you really think I won't kill him with my own hands? You were the one who told me to say what I wanted, I said helplessly, grasping his fingertips to loosen his hold. You suspect me of having an affair with Prince Ning. You suspect I still pine for him. You test me over and over again. When I don't mention Prince Ning, you say I'm lying to you. When I do mention him, you accuse me of provoking you. Fu Yang, you cannot be so unreasonable. He stared at me with a cold, stony expression, saying nothing, his demeanor showing no signs of softening. I let out a long sigh. Fu Yang, I have been in this palace for 5 years. For 5 years, every time we meet, we end up quarreling. Have you never stopped to wonder why? For 5 years. We have not been husband and wife, we have been enemies. Do you really want to spend the rest of your life living like this with me? Silence descended upon the room, thick and heavy. The only sounds were our quiet breathing and the candle flames flickering gently in the breeze. After what felt like an eternity, I heard his voice, low and muffled with emotion. No, but every time it's always you picking a fight with me. You hate me, you loathe me, you won't let me near you. Every time I touch you, you recoil from me like I'm some kind of repulsive beast. Mu Warning, you don't love me, in fact, you hate me, all you want is to leave me. What else can I do? He stood before me. His head hanging low, his eyelashes casting long, dark shadows across his cheeks. Listening closely, I could detect a hint of sorrow in his voice, almost bordering on despair. I dug my nails into my palm, hard enough to draw blood. I mean it this time. Fu Yang, I said earnestly, I truly want to get along with you. I don't like Prince Ning anymore, and I will never have an affair with him. Just trust me this once. Sit down, let's talk properly. Can we do that? Fu Yang stared at me. His gaze intense and unwavering. After a long moment, he sat down stiffly beside me, assuming a serious, businesslike posture, as if ready to negotiate a treaty. I will never let you go, he stated flatly, his tone leaving no room for argument. Other than that, I am willing to listen to whatever you have to say. Watching the serious expression on his face, I couldn't help but let out a small sigh of relief. It was almost laughable. 5 years into my reign as Empress. This was the first time we had ever sat face to face, determined to have a proper conversation. I have loved reading the travelogues written by our ancestors since I was a child. I began, my voice softening as I spoke of my long-held dreams. I have always yearned to leave the capital, to roam the rivers and lakes, to experience more of the world, to see all the beautiful sights it has to offer. Once, Prince Ning was just an idle prince with no official duties. He promised me that he would accompany me on my travels even if we had to go all the way to the borderlands. He would let me ride my horse freely and live a life of unbridled joy. This palace is too small, too suffocating, Your Imperial Majesty. These past 5 years, I have wandered every corner of the Imperial Garden. I know exactly which flowers bloom where, which weeds grow in which season. I hate it here, no matter how magnificent the carved beams and jade pillars. No matter how abundant the gold and jade, none of it could compare to the boundless rivers and mountains beyond the palace walls. When I was a child, I used to dream of wandering the world with a sword at my waist. When I grew up and became betrothed, Prince Ning had said that he would fulfill that dream for me, that he would let me live without being constrained by the rigid expectations placed on women, that he would let me live a life of freedom and happiness. Later, I was forced into the palace to become empress, trapped within these 4 walls of red bricks and glazed tiles, bound by endless rituals and rules. It was enough to drive a person mad. I had been imprisoned here in gilded luxury for 10 long years, driven to the brink of despair. I had set fire to myself, praying for a chance to be free in my next life. You, born a legitimate daughter of an aristocratic family, how could you harbor such outrageous thoughts? Fu Yang asked. Clearly shocked by my confession, I shrugged my shoulders indifferently. I grew up with my maternal grandfather in the southern borderlands. I didn't return to the capital until I was 13. I have never been fully comfortable with all these tedious rules and regulations. Being empress and managing such a vast palace, it has never suited me. It wasn't that I couldn't do it, it was that I didn't want to. The stifling, suffocating atmosphere of being kept like a caged bird, living like that was enough to drive even the sanest person to the brink of madness. But Fu Yang simply couldn't understand. He looked at me, utterly confused, and asked, "You are the empress, the mistress of this palace. Who dares to control you? Who dares to make you suffer? Even I am at your beck and call, chasing after you like a loyal dog. What possible constraints could you be facing in this palace? If you find the palace too dull, then I shall grant you a special privilege from now on. You may leave the palace whenever you wish to visit your family. Will that suffice?" It was an extraordinary privilege, one that no other empress in history had ever been granted. But I opened my mouth to say something, but in the end, I just let out a soft sigh. Forget it. Let it be. I had thought that if Fu Yang and I could just have one honest conversation, our relationship would finally begin to improve, but I was wrong. He could never understand the suffocating sense of imprisonment I felt in this palace. Perhaps, in his eyes, my longing for freedom and adventure was nothing more than the petty, unreasonable complaints of a spoiled woman. I felt a surge of helplessness wash over me, but I couldn't fight with him anymore, given a second chance at life. If I couldn't find happiness for myself, then at the very least, I could ensure that my child lived a happy life. Hunger is now living in Phoenix Perch Palace with me. He is growing up fast, old enough to remember things now. If your Imperial Majesty has time, please visit him more often. Very well. Fu Yang replied casually, his mind clearly elsewhere. He's a boy, why fuss over him so much? There are plenty of servants to take care of him. Besides, he is the crown prince. Who would dare to neglect him? The casual disregard in his tone was unmistakable. My heart tightened sharply. That's not the point. He is only 4 years old. He needs companionship, and he adores his father emperor. I spoke earnestly, my voice filled with urgency. If your Imperial Majesty has time, please make sure to come to Phoenix Perch Palace to spend time with him. When I returned to Phoenix Perch Palace after dinner, Hunger had already been put to bed by his nanny. I tiptoed quietly into his room, removing my nail guard so as not to wake him. Gently, I traced the soft contours of his sleeping face with my fingertips. Watching him sleep so soundly and peacefully, a wave of calm washed over my troubled heart. I slipped quietly out of the room and wandered around the courtyard, gazing up at the tall willow trees, their branches sprouting tender new shoots under the silvery glow of the moon. Haju stood quietly behind me, then asked softly, "Your Highness, have you reconciled with His Imperial Majesty?" "What other choice do I have?" I replied, spreading my hands open to catch the silvery moonlight that fell like scattered stars into my palms. "Haju, I have fought with him for 5 years, argued with him for 5 years, and still, he refuses to let me go. I have accepted my fate. From now on, I will stay in this palace, raise Hunger with all my heart, and watch him grow up happy and healthy. That will be enough to make my life worthwhile. I had accepted my fate, so be it. That dream of wandering the world with a sword at my waist, let it remain nothing more than a dream. When the dream ended, I would still be trapped within these deep, impenetrable palace walls." Early the next morning, after finishing my breakfast, I sat in the study watching Hunger practice his calligraphy. He wrote with such earnest concentration, his small hand gripping the brush tightly as he traced the characters carefully, stroke by stroke, following the example in his copybook. Whenever he encountered a character with complicated strokes, his little eyebrows would furrow together in frustration. It was the most adorable sight in the world. I rested my chin in my hand, watching him for a long time, until Haju suddenly walked in, whispering softly, Second Miss has submitted a request to enter the palace today. She says she wishes to have a chat with your highness. I have nothing to say to her, I replied without looking up, refusing her request outright. But Haju hesitated, looking troubled. Stepping closer, she leaned in to whisper in my ear. Second Miss says she has brought a letter from Prince Ning for you. Apparently, your eldest brother was keeping the letter hidden, refusing to give it to you. She stole it from him, wanting to deliver it to you personally. My hand froze mid-air. After a long moment, I said, in that case, let her enter the palace, but assign guards to watch her closely. She is not to be allowed to wander around freely. Yes, your highness, Haju replied, bowing deeply before retreating. Meanwhile, the crown prince set down his brush, pursing his lips as he asked me, Mother Empress, is aunt coming to visit? Yes, I replied, reaching out to ruffle his hair. Why, does Hunger not like her? No, he said quietly, his voice soft and hesitant. Aunt once told me that Mother Empress never wanted to have a child, that Father Emperor forced you to give birth to me, that Mother Empress doesn't like me, but now Mother Empress is living with Hunger. That means Aunt was lying. Aunt should apologize to me, a 4-year-old child, able to articulate so clearly the cruel words I never wanted to have him. My heart ached sharply, and I pulled him into my arms instinctively. Hunger is Mother Empress's most precious treasure, I said gently. Pressing a kiss to the top of his head, Aunt was wrong. Mother Empress will make her apologize to you, and Mother Empress also apologizes for not visiting you more often in the past. I will never neglect you again. Can you forgive Mother Empress? I never blamed Mother Empress, he replied hastily, shaking his head vigorously. Being held in my arms, he looked a little embarrassed, the tips of his ears turning a faint shade of pink. Mother Empress is very busy, with so many things to take care of. Even though you didn't come to see me very often, you always asked Sister Haju to send me lots of nice things every month. Mother Empress has always thought of me. I know it. I fell silent, a wave of bitterness and sorrow washing over my heart. When my illegitimate half-sister walked into Phoenix Perch Palace, I was sitting on the main seat with Hunger in my arms. My voice was cold and icy as I asked her why she had told the crown prince those cruel lies, that I had never wanted to give birth to him. My half-sister's face turned pale, but she forced herself to remain calm, her voice trembling slightly as she lied. I never said such things, sister. The crown prince must have heard them from some palace servant, and is falsely accusing me to get me into trouble. She sank to her knees, bursting into fake tears. I cannot recall ever offending the crown prince. For a child as young as 4 to be able to frame someone so maliciously, what will he grow up to be? Sister, you must defend me. The little boy in my arms grew anxious, clutching my sleeve tightly, his big, grape-like eyes looking up at me, begging me to believe him. I patted his hand gently to soothe him. Then, I turned my gaze to my half-sister, who was kneeling on the floor below me. I have never understood where you got the audacity to sow discord between me and my son. The crown prince is my own flesh and blood. You are nothing more than a lowly illegitimate daughter. What made you think I would believe your lies over the word of my own child? Her face turned even paler, her body swaying unsteadily as she looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Sister, for trying to turn my own son against me, your crime is unforgivable, I declared, my voice cold and unyielding. I sentence you to confinement in the family temple. There, you will reflect on your misdeeds and atone for your sins. No, you can't, she shrieked suddenly, her voice rising to a hysterical pitch. I have proof of your illicit affair with Prince Ning, Mu Warning. If you dare to punish me, I will take this proof straight to His Imperial Majesty. We will all go down together. What proof? A familiar voice echoed through the room. It was Fu Yang. What proof is so important that you dare to raise your voice and speak the Empress's given name without respect? Fu Yang lifted Hunger into his arms and sat down beside me, his expression calm and unreadable. Let me see it now. If it fails to prove whatever wild accusation you're making, I'll grant you a cup of poisoned wine as punishment for your disrespect toward the Empress. My half-sister's body trembled violently, her fake tears drying up instantly, gritting her teeth. She pulled a sealed letter from her sleeve. The wax seal was intact, and a few small characters were written on the envelope. For Her Majesty the Empress. This is a letter Prince Ning sent from the border, she cried out, her voice loud and desperate, as if staking everything on this last-ditch effort. He specifically instructed that it be delivered directly to the Empress. Is this not proof of their secret correspondence, ever since she came of age? My sister has been in love with Prince Ning. Her affection only grew stronger after they became betrothed. To this day, they continue to exchange private letters, betraying your Imperial Majesty's trust. I beg you to see the truth. She knelt prostrate on the ground, her forehead pressed against the cold floor. The maids and eunuchs in the hall all dropped to their knees as well, trembling with fear, terrified that they would be silenced forever for overhearing such a scandalous royal secret. Fu Yang looked at me, a faint, mocking smile playing on his lips. Do you know what is written in this letter, Empress? I shook my head, about to speak, but my half-sister cut me off again. I only received permission to enter the palace today because I told the guards I had a letter from Prince Ning to deliver to my sister. She must have been eagerly awaiting it, otherwise she never would have. Shut up, I snapped, finally losing my patience. Her shrill voice was making my temples throb with pain. Are you truly so eager to die? Hezhu understood my meaning immediately, stepping forward to gag my half-sister with a silk handkerchief, signaling her to be quiet. By then, the eunuch had picked up the letter and presented it to Fu Yang. He held the corner of the envelope between his fingers, turning to look at me. Empress, may I open this letter? Your Imperial Majesty may do as you please, I replied, meeting his suspicious gaze head-on. Prince Ning had always held the utmost respect for his elder brother. I refused to believe that he would dare to covet the Emperor's wife while Fu Yang was still alive. Fu Yang tore open the envelope and pulled out a thin sheet of paper, but instead of reading it right away, he tossed it to me. You read it first. If there is anything in it that shouldn't be there, hide it from me. I'm afraid I'll drop dead from anger if I see it. He pressed his fingertips to his throbbing temples. Then turned his cold gaze to my half-sister, who was still kneeling on the floor. Disrespecting the Empress is a capital offense, but since you are the Empress's blood sister, I'll be merciful. Choose your own death, white silk or poisoned wine. My half-sister was frozen in terror, her body shook violently, and she began to whimper, crawling toward me on her hands and knees, begging for mercy. Her forehead was bruised and bleeding from where she had banged it against the floor. Her hair was disheveled, her hairpins and jade ornaments scattered all around her. She looked like a complete mess. Enough, I said, placing a hand on Fu Yang's arm to stop him. Confine her to the family temple for 5 years. That will be punishment enough. It is not a crime worthy of death. There is no need to spill more blood. Fu Yang let out a cold, humorless laugh, but he did not look at me. He was angry with me. From experience, I knew that once everyone else had left the room, he would lose his temper again. Sure enough, as soon as my half-sister was dragged away, Fu Yang waved his hand, dismissing all the remaining servants from the hall. Hunger watched him nervously, then whispered to me, Mother Empress, is Father Emperor upset? Upset didn't even begin to describe it. In a moment, he would be acting like a rabid dog. I silently cursed my bad luck, but I kept my expression calm as I stroked Hunger's head and asked, what makes you say that? Father Emperor's mouth is turned downward, he replied, using his small fingers to pull the corners of his own lips down into a frown. He mimicked Fu Yang's sullen expression perfectly with his childish face. I couldn't help but want to laugh, but before I could, Fu Yang lifted Hanger by the back of his collar and handed him to a waiting eunuch. Take him out, lock the door behind you. No matter what you hear, you are not to enter this room. Watching Fu Yang's obvious descent into rage, I shrank back slightly, waving the sheet of paper in my hand. Why don't we read this letter first? You don't trust me, fine. But do you not trust your own brother? Is he the kind of man who would covet his elder brother's wife? Fu Yang. He ignored me completely, sweeping me up in his arms and carrying me toward the inner chambers without a word. The letter slipped from my hand, falling to the floor. Fu Yang stepped on it twice in his anger, leaving 2 muddy footprints decorated with dragon patterns on the pristine white paper. I cursed him in despair. Are you deaf? Listen to me. I told you we should read it first. It might not be what you think it is. I forbid you from reading his letter. Fu Yang snarled, throwing me down onto the bed. He unfastened the belt around his waist with calm, deliberate movements. Sliding off his outer robe, he leaned over me, his fingers digging into my chin as he forced me to look at him. You are not allowed to read his handwriting, you are not allowed to think of him, not even for a single moment, no matter what is written in that letter, no matter how deeply in love you once were. Mu Warning, you are my empress now, you were the one who said you wanted to make this work. If you dare to lie to me, I'll turn him into a human pig, and I'll lock you up in a cage for the rest of your life. You'll never see the light of day again. His words were cold and cruel, dripping with malice, and I felt nothing but despair. When Fu Yang was in this state, he was completely unreasonable. He would not calm down until he had vented all his anger, and as for how he would vent it, I stared at the small jade bell in his hand, feeling a surge of humiliation and helplessness as I said, "You are the emperor of a great nation. Where on earth do you get all these vulgar toys from brothels?" He said nothing, his eyes burning with rage as he stared at me, his fingers brushing gently against my ankle. I bit my lip, resigning myself to my fate as I lay back on the bed and said, "Then, be gentle, it was my fault, after all. I should never have let my half-sister into the palace out of curiosity about what Prince Ning had written in his letter." I thought to myself, tomorrow, I must ask the imperial physician to diagnose Fu Yang's madness. Prince Ning's letter lay forgotten on the floor, no one daring to pick it up. Fu Yang had stomped on it several times in his fit of rage, leaving it crumpled and dirty. He urged me to throw it away, warning me that it would only anger Fu Yang further if he saw me reading it, but I shook my head. Prince Ning is not a man who acts without reason. There must be something important in this letter. I wiped the dirt off the paper with a silk handkerchief and began to read it carefully. The more I read, the more horrified I became. In the letter, Prince Ning wrote that last year, the cotton in the winter uniforms supplied to the soldiers at the border had been replaced with straw. He had submitted several memorials to the court requesting an investigation, but all of them had been ignored. In the end, he had been forced to use his own private fortune to buy new winter supplies for his men. It was absolutely terrifying that corrupt court officials would dare to embezzle funds meant for the soldiers who were laying down their lives to defend the country. To make matters worse, rumors were spreading like wildfire at the border. Some even claimed that the emperor had deliberately withheld supplies from Prince Ning out of jealousy over his relationship with me. That the emperor would allow his personal feelings to interfere with state affairs was a grave dereliction of duty, one that made him unfit to rule. Prince Ning had no one he could trust in the court, not even my own father and brothers. He had been forced to write to me, hoping that I could pass his message along to the emperor. At the end of the letter, he wrote, "Your Majesty, I know you are a woman of integrity, who would never collude with corrupt officials. I beg you to inform His Imperial Majesty of the truth, so that justice may be served for the soldiers at the border. May you live a long and peaceful life, now and forever." I crumpled the letter in my hand, my knuckles turning white with anger. Without a moment's hesitation, I ordered He to dress me. I was going to Chenxian Palace to see Fu Yang at once. As I walked through the palace corridors, my mind raced with thoughts. In my previous life, my half-sister had always held a palace token. So she had never needed to use a letter from Prince Ning as an excuse to see me, which meant that this letter had been hidden by my eldest brother. Had he done it to prevent me from having any further contact with Prince Ning, or was he trying to cover up something else? I dug my nails into my palm, my heart heavy with dread. Fu Yang had once served at the border himself. He valued his soldiers more than anything in the world. If he found out about this scandal, there would be bloodshed, countless heads would roll. Brother, you have spent your entire life studying the classics, learning the ways of the scholar officials, learning to cultivate virtue, govern the state, and bring peace to the world. I hope all that education was not in vain, otherwise, even I may not be able to save the Mu family this time. As I had expected, Fu Yang was absolutely furious when he read the letter. He immediately dispatched his most elite hidden guards, ordering them to launch a thorough investigation into the corruption case. The head guard hesitated for a moment, then said, The memorials Prince Ning submitted were all intercepted by the Grand Secretary's office. We must start our investigation with the Grand Secretary first. But the Grand Secretary is the Empress's father. The guard glanced at me nervously, then knelt down on the floor, not daring to say another word. Fu Yang fell silent for a long moment. Then removed the dragon-patterned jade pendant from his waist and handed it to the guard, his voice cold and sharp with authority. Investigate. No matter who is involved, no matter how high their position, you are to get to the bottom of this. Spare no effort, spare no one. Yes, Your Imperial Majesty, the guard replied, bowing deeply before taking his leave. I sat there in a daze on the soft couch, staring at the scattered sunlight filtering through the window onto my hands. Prince Ning's letter was not about a love affair, I said to Fu Yang, my voice hoarse with emotion. Perhaps Your Imperial Majesty owes me an apology. I looked up, locking eyes with Fu Yang, and gave him a bitter, helpless smile. We fell into a heavy, uncomfortable silence. The Mu family had produced 5 generations of Grand Secretaries, 4 imperial tutors, and 2 empresses. Our influence extended throughout the court and the palace, with students and allies everywhere. If my father and brothers were truly involved in this corruption case, it would be a huge headache for Fu Yang to deal with, and for me as well. My maternal grandfather had taught me from a young age to be loyal to the emperor and love my country. He had also taught me that people were the foundation of all power under heaven. Soldiers risk their lives on the battlefield every single day. The least the court could do was ensure that they had warm clothes to wear in the winter, not steal from them to line their own pockets. But humans are not made of stone. We are bound by blood and emotion. They were my father and brother, my own flesh and blood. Once this matter is resolved, I said softly, breaking the silence, please recall Prince Ning to the capital. Your Imperial Majesty, you and he are blood brothers. There should never have been such a rift between you. If your relationship had been normal, this scandal would never have been allowed to fester for so long. Fu Yang said nothing, but his silence was a tacit agreement. At long last, he had realized that the estrangement between him and Prince Ning had been exploited by others, almost with disastrous consequences. I should return to Phoenix Perch Palace to check on Hanger, I said, rising to my feet to take my leave. Your Imperial Majesty should rest early. Fu Yang did not try to stop me. As I walked back to my palace, a sudden thought occurred to me. In my previous life, shortly after Prince Ning's death in battle, Fu Yang had suddenly issued an imperial edict, forcing my father and brother to resign from their official positions and retire to their hometowns. At the time, I had thought he was punishing them out of jealousy, resenting them for being a constant reminder of my connection to Prince Ning. I had fought with him bitterly over it for weeks, but now, I realized that it had been his way of sparing the Mu family from further humiliation. Father, brother, the Mu family has enjoyed a century of honor and prestige. If it all comes crashing down because of your greed, will you not feel ashamed when you face our ancestors in the afterlife? Fu Yang never told me the full details of the investigation, and when the corruption scandal was finally made public, the Mu family's name was conspicuously absent from the list of those implicated. But then, the third branch of the Mu family, my uncle, suddenly died in the bed of a courtesan, bringing shame and disgrace upon our entire clan. Shortly after that, my father was demoted by 1 rank, and my eldest brother was exiled to serve as a provincial official in Shu, a remote and barren region. The once great Mu family was thrown into chaos, with everyone living in fear and uncertainty. My mother submitted a request to enter the palace to see me, begging me to intercede with the emperor and stop my brother's exile. But I refused without hesitation. Mother, the Mu family has crossed a line this time, I said to her coldly. If it weren't for the crown prince's sake, you would not even be sitting here talking to me right now. Every other official involved in this scandal has had their families executed and their properties confiscated. The emperor has already shown the Mu family extraordinary leniency. How could I possibly ask for more? Although it was uncle who committed this crime, I want you to go back and tell father this. He must discipline our family strictly from now on. We cannot allow the greed of a few to destroy the century-old reputation of the Mu clan. My mother nodded numbly, too shocked to say anything else. After seeing her off, I stood by the window, watching the willow branches sway gently in the wind. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. Fu Yang had not taken the lives of my father and brother, which meant that they had not been directly involved in the corruption scandal. What a stroke of luck. As for everything else, with me as Empress and the Crown Prince in the court, the Mu family would face no real danger. The thought made me pause, a sudden realization dawning on me. My mindset had changed. Once, I loathed being Empress, trapped in this suffocating imperial city. Now, I was grateful for it. Grateful that I could support my family when my father and brothers stumbled. That I could soothe my mother's anxious heart. The loss of freedom had been exchanged for immense power. It wasn't entirely without its benefits, was it? I personally made a plate of Osmanthus cakes, then went to Chenqian Palace to find Fu Yang. He was buried in a mountain of memorials. When he saw me enter, he set aside the unfinished ones and hooked a finger at me. Come here. I walked over, needing the pressure points on his shoulders that would ease his fatigue. He closed his eyes in contentment, but still found the energy to tease me. Why are you being so obedient today? With the Mu family in such a state, I no longer have the courage to quarrel with your Imperial Majesty, I replied, my tone light and teasing. Hundreds of lives depend on me, my family outside the palace, and the Crown Prince within it. My power comes from you, your Imperial Majesty. I have no choice but to curry favor with you. Fu Yang chuckled, opening his eyes to take my hand and press a kiss to my knuckles. If I had known this is what it would take to make you behave, I would have dealt with the Mu family long ago. Realizing the inappropriateness of his words, he trailed off, leaving the rest unspoken. Instead, he nuzzled my fingers, his voice growing hoarse with emotion. If the Empress can stay this obedient forever, I would even give you my life without hesitation. Wanwan, be good, let us live in peace from now on. I will give you anything you desire. He suddenly froze, as if remembering something, and released my hand. Prince Ning will be returning to the capital. He has earned countless military merits defending the border these past few years. When he comes back, I will have to reward him generously. But he is already a prince, there is no higher title I can bestow upon him. Wanwan, what do you think of arranging a marriage for him? The eldest legitimate daughter of the Minister of Revenue just came of age the other day. She even went to the Empress Dowager, begging to enter the palace to serve me. I could grant her to Prince Ning in marriage instead. It would fulfill her wish to marry into the imperial family. Wanwan, what do you think of this arrangement? He spoke with a faint, mocking smile playing on his lips, an obvious test. I was too tired to reason with him. Instead, I said bluntly, it would be unseemly to bestow a woman that your Imperial Majesty rejected upon Prince Ning. Word would spread quickly. Furthermore, marriage should be based on mutual affection. If your Imperial Majesty arbitrarily arranges this union and it does not turn out to be a happy one, it will only breed resentment. It will not achieve the goal of showing grace. He twitched the corner of his mouth. So, Wanwan's wish is that I not arrange a marriage for Prince Ning. But there is no other way to reward him. Perhaps I should send you to Prince Ning's mansion in a sedan chair, so that you two can pour out your hearts to each other. How does that sound? I bit my tongue, barely restraining the urge to grab the ink slab beside me and smash it over his head. It was too humiliating. Even as a deliberate provocation, his words were filled with deep malice. I took a deep breath, stepped back 2 paces, bowed respectfully, and said, I have other matters to attend to today, Your Imperial Majesty. I will not disturb you any longer. Please rest well. With that, I turned and walked away. Fu Yang stared after me in stunned silence. It took him a long moment to recover, then he panicked, sending a eunuch scrambling after me to beg me to come back. The eunuch followed me all the way, spouting endless apologies, beads of sweat rolling down his forehead in his haste, but I refused to relent. I will return to Phoenix Perch Palace first to have some tea, I told him coldly. This is a matter between His Imperial Majesty and myself. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Haju handed the eunuch a white handkerchief to wipe his sweat, and only then did he stop his trembling pleas. As the green glazed roof tiles of Phoenix Perch Palace came into view, I looked down at the matching emerald jade bracelet on my wrist, the one Fu Yang had forced me to wear. My expression turned cold and hard. This time, I was going to cure Fu Yang of his madness once and for all. I gave Fu Yang the silent treatment. He came to Phoenix Perch Palace many times, but I refused to let him in. The conciliatory gifts he sent piled up along the entire corridor outside my palace gates, glinting with gold and jade. But I forbade the servants from opening the door. After several such rebuffs, his imperial pride was wounded. He finally stormed off in a huff, refusing to grovel for my forgiveness any longer. The setting sun blazed with brilliant red and gold that day. I held Hunger in my arms, listening to the commotion in the corridor outside, the sound of raised voices, and the endless chorus of Your Imperial Majesty, please calm your anger. The little boy looked up at me, his voice soft with confusion. Mother Empress, why won't you let Father Emperor come in? Because Father Emperor said things that hurt Mother Empress's feelings, I replied, peeling a grape and feeding it to him. I watched him chew and swallow, then stroked his head gently. Prince Ning was a thorn in the side of my relationship with Fu Yang. If I wanted to make things work with Fu Yang, I had to remove that thorn once and for all. After 3 days of the silent treatment, Fu Yang's patience finally ran out. He summoned Haju to Chenqian Palace for questioning. Haju knelt on the floor, her voice clear and steady as she replied, Her Highness has remained in Phoenix Perch Palace these past few days. Weeping bitterly day and night, she often stares in a daze at the withered peach blossoms in the courtyard. She does not look the least bit happy. Fu Yang's fingers tightened into a fist, his knuckles turning white. Do you know why the Empress is so heartbroken? Her Highness says that Your Imperial Majesty does not trust her. Haju replied, glancing at Fu Yang nervously before lowering her voice. She also says that Your Imperial Majesty spoke many humiliating words to her, causing her great sorrow. When Haju returned to Phoenix Perch Palace, she approached me quietly as I sat reading a book and eating grapes. Your Highness, this servant has relayed your words to His Imperial Majesty exactly as you instructed. Good, I replied, leaning lazily against the soft pillow behind me. Tell the eunuchs in Chenqian Palace to keep a close eye on His Imperial Majesty. Send word to me at once if he shows any signs of coming here. Yes, Your Highness, Haju said. Bowing deeply before taking her leave, I stared at the dense lines of text in front of me, but found myself unable to focus. I had never deigned to use such tactics with Fu Yang before of these petty games that married couples played. Deep down, I had never truly considered him my husband, but now, was this a good thing, or a bad thing? I pondered the question for a moment, but in the end, I shrugged it off. It didn't matter, it was simply something that needed to be done right now. Overthinking it would serve no purpose. The day Fu Yang finally lost his temper, slamming down his brush and storming over to Phoenix Perch Palace, I had put on a pale, delicate makeup and dressed in a plain white robe. I sat in a rocking chair beneath the peach blossom tree, my eyes closed, looking listless and fragile. The sight of me immediately filled Fu Yang with remorse. He strode over, lifted me into his arms, then sat down in the rocking chair himself, letting me rest comfortably on his lap. He stroked my hair gently, his tone filled with helplessness. Wanwan, what do you want from me? Tell me, and I'll do it. I opened my eyes, my expression listless and sad. I truly want to live in peace with Your Imperial Majesty. Do you understand that? I understand, he replied, his voice soft with regret. If you understand, then why do you keep bringing up Prince Ning in front of me? Why do you humiliate me by suggesting that I should pour out my heart to him? Is that what you think of me? Your Imperial Majesty, that I am such an immoral woman, so devoid of honor and shame, that I would carry on an affair with my own husband's younger brother. He fell silent, his lips parting as if he wanted to argue, but when he saw the tears glistening in my eyes, threatening to spill over, he swallowed his words. This was the first time I had ever shown such vulnerability in front of him, the soft, fragile side of a woman wronged. He clearly relished it. His heart ached for me. I was wrong. I will never mention it again. I wasn't thinking. It was a habit, to speak to you that way. He took my hand, pressing it against his cheek. Wanwan, hit me. Take your anger out on me. I should never have doubted you, knowing your stubborn nature. You would never stoop to lying to me. I was wrong. Hit me. Please." He spoke so earnestly, so sincerely, but I did not hit him. Instead, I pinched his cheek gently. I watched as his smooth, precious skin puckered under my fingertips. Then said softly, "I truly want to build a life with you, Your Imperial Majesty. What happened in the past is just that, the past. From now on, it will only be you and me. If Prince Ning continues to come between us, we will never be able to move forward. Do you understand that?" He nodded, his eyes filled with remorse and affection. I finally smiled at him, leaning forward to wrap my arms around his lean waist. I breathed a silent sigh of relief. Finally, this chapter was closed. At the palace banquet held to welcome Prince Ning back to the capital, he spoke only 2 sentences to me. The first was, "Your Majesty the Empress, may you be blessed with peace and prosperity." The second was, "I wish Your Imperial Majesties a long and happy marriage, united in heart until your hair turns white." He had always deeply admired his elder brother. Even though Fu Yang had stolen his fiancée, it had not diminished his respect and affection for him in the slightest. And Fu Yang had always loved his younger brother. In my previous life, after Prince Ning was ambushed and killed in battle, Fu Yang had suspended court for 3 full days. He had dispatched his most elite soldiers and generals to hunt down the barbarian tribe responsible for his death, annihilating them completely. Many nights, as he lay atop me, his tears would fall onto my collarbone, his voice choked with grief. I was not a good brother. He must have hated me until the day he died. After the palace banquet, Fu Yang and Prince Ning stayed up all night talking, their bond restored to what it had been before. Prince Ning stayed in the palace for several days, but he made a deliberate effort to avoid me, clearly wanting to prevent any misunderstandings, until one day, when I took Hanger to fly a kite in the Imperial Garden, I watched as the little boy ran excitedly with his wild goose-shaped kite, only to crash headfirst into Prince Ning's legs. Hanger's forehead was bruised and sore, his eyes welling up with tears, but he stood up straight, bowed respectfully to Prince Ning, and said, "Greetings, Uncle Wang." "Hello, Hanger," Prince Ning replied, smiling gently as he knelt down to rub the little boy's forehead. He took a jade pendant from his waist and handed it to him. "I was at the border when you were born, so I was unable to give you a birth gift. This is a belated present. I hope you will not dislike it, Crown Prince." "I would never dislike a gift from Uncle Wang," Hanger said eagerly, shaking his head vigorously as he clutched the jade pendant tightly to his chest. Prince Ning had clearly thought I was not present. The look in his eyes as he stared at Hanger was so tender, so filled with quiet longing, as if he were looking at his own child through the little boy. "Prince Ning," I called out, stepping forward. His expression stiffened visibly. He turned to leave, but realized how obvious it would look, so he forced himself to stop. Bowing deeply to me, "Your Majesty the Empress, may you be blessed with peace and prosperity." "There is no need for such formalities," I replied, standing before him. I glanced at the jade pendant in Hanger's hand, then asked softly, "Your Highness has achieved great things on the battlefield. It is time for you to take a wife and start a family of your own. His Imperial Majesty has selected several fine young ladies for you. Have you found one that catches your eye?" He fell silent for a moment, then replied, "I have chosen the eldest legitimate daughter of the Marquis of Jingyang. His Imperial Majesty will issue the imperial edict for our marriage soon." "That is good," I said, nodding my head. After that, we fell into an awkward silence. I didn't know what else to say. We stared at each other wordlessly for a moment. Then he glanced at me quickly and said, "I have other matters to attend to, Your Majesty. I will take my leave now, so as not to disturb you. May you live a long and peaceful life, now and forever." To this day, I still do not understand the reasons for love. My maternal grandfather once said, "Love arises without reason." Growing deeper and deeper with each passing day, love is the most unreasonable thing in the world, which is why Fu Yang was willing to steal his own brother's fiancée to marry me, which is why Prince Ning wasted the best years of his life, guarding the bitter cold of the border alone. I thought them foolish, irrational. Yet I couldn't help but acknowledge the rarity of such devotion. But how long could such an elusive, intangible thing last? Humans should never stake their lives on something so ephemeral, something that could vanish in the blink of an eye. By my generation, the Mu family had produced empresses for 3 consecutive dynasties, with deep-rooted influence in the inner palace. Even if Fu Yang's affections shifted to another woman someday, I was confident in securing Hunga's position as crown prince. It was clear that only what one truly held in their hands could serve as the foundation for survival in this harem. The days that followed were uneventful. I rarely quarreled with Fu Yang anymore, always complying with his wishes and focusing all my energy on raising Hunga. Forced by my persistence, Fu Yang also paid more attention to Hunga, personally selecting 3 distinguished tutors for the crown prince. Occasionally testing his academic progress, the father-son bond grew much warmer. 3 years later, I gave birth to a daughter. Fu Yang was overjoyed, bestowing upon her the title Princess Yunyang. When I woke up after childbirth, I saw Hunga leaning over the princess's cradle, his eyes wide with excitement, and Fu Yang beside him, his face radiant with joy. Hunga stretched out a finger, wanting to poke his little sister's cheek. Fu Yang stopped him gently. "Don't disturb your sister. If she wakes up, she'll cry, and that will bother your mother. Your mother has worked so hard. Let her rest a little longer." Watching Hunga nod solemnly, watching the 2 heads, one big and one small, bent over the cradle, listening to Hunga whisper softly that his sister's eyes looked just like mother's, and her mouth just like father's, I suddenly thought to myself, living like this for the rest of my life, it wouldn't be so bad. After all, when Yunyang turned 3, I was accompanying the children in the imperial garden when the Empress Dowager's head nanny passed by. She was with a young maiden, her figure graceful and elegant. They bowed to me. The girl, in her early teens, had a crisp, melodious voice like a singing lark. "No need for formalities," I said, waving a hand. I asked, "Who is this young lady?" "She is the legitimate daughter of Prince Chunnan's mansion. The Empress Dowager is gravely ill, so the mansion sent her to the palace to attend to Her Majesty," the nanny replied respectfully. I smiled and waved them on. The Prince Chunnan's mansion was the Empress Dowager's maternal family. Sending a young maiden of marriageable age to the palace under the pretense of nursing the sick, their motives were as clear as day. Too many people were eyeing the position of the emperor's favored consort. They had probably seen that although this emperor was ruthless to his own kin, he was, by and large, exceptionally lenient toward the women in his life. 3 years prior, my father had been restored to his original official position. Last year, my eldest brother had returned to the capital and been promoted to Minister of Works. The Mu family was now at the height of its prosperity, flourishing like a blazing fire amid blooming flowers. No matter how many officials rose and fell in the court, the Mu family stood unshakable. It was enough to make anyone envious. I stared fixedly at the girl's graceful retreating figure, then bent down to stroke Princess Yunyang's head. "Mother will make Osman thus cakes for you today." "Okay." In the evening, Haju came to report to me, "Your Highness, His Imperial Majesty went to the Empress Dowager's palace and dined at the same table with that young lady. After dinner, the lady composed 2 lines of poetry describing the withered lotus she saw on her way to the palace. His Imperial Majesty admired them greatly, nodding repeatedly and praising her as a talented woman. With the reputation of a talented woman now attached to her, this young lady will have no trouble finding a good marriage." I commented casually, continuing to practice my calligraphy without lifting my head. Haju, however, looked rather anxious. "Your Highness, it's obvious she's here for His Imperial Majesty. Are you not going to do anything about it?" "What can I do?" I asked, my expression calm and indifferent. "Storm the Sinning Palace with a sword, or order the Empress Dowager's own niece to be thrown out of the palace. His Imperial Majesty is not an incompetent ruler. If he wants a woman, there is nothing I can do to stop him." "Your Highness, that's enough." I cut Haju off, my tone firm. "Go check if Princess Yunyang has fallen asleep, then send a bowl of soothing soup to the Crown Prince, telling him to rest early and not stay up late reading." Fu Yang came to my palace very late that night. I was still awake, grinding the osmanthus petals I had picked earlier. The flower juice, infused with sugar, slowly dripped into a white jade porcelain bottle, looking incredibly tempting. Fu Yang wrapped his arms around my waist from behind. It's so late. Why aren't you asleep? Your Imperial Majesty is only just arriving now, isn't he? I replied, not looking up as I sealed the porcelain bottle tightly and placed it on my dressing table, before I could set it down properly. Fu Yang lifted me off my feet, carrying me in his arms. I met a young girl from Prince Chunnan's mansion today. Her poetry is quite interesting. Remaining to listen to the rain on withered lotus leaves. Withered lotus is inherently a symbol of decline, yet in her poem, it takes on a unique charm. Why was he telling me about her? I shot him a strange glance. Fu Yang was still smiling. I frowned. Does your Imperial Majesty intend to take her into the palace? So that you can listen to the rain on withered lotus leaves together. My tone was sharp and unfriendly. To my surprise, Fu Yang looked even more delighted. He pinched the soft flesh at my waist, teasing me. Is the Empress jealous? The rain on withered lotus leaves is indeed pleasant, but I already have my Empress. My eyes can no longer hold any other woman. Don't be angry, my dear Wanwan. He laid me down on the bed, leaning over to kiss my neck, his hands wandering restlessly. I was forced to tilt my head back. After a moment, I couldn't help but curse him. Fu Yang, you scoundrel. Yes, I'm a scoundrel, he chuckled, his breath warm against my skin. But my Empress clearly enjoys it just as much. The next day, Fu Yang arranged a marriage for that young lady. Her fiancé was the legitimate son of the Marquis of Yang, a promising young man, clear-eyed and handsome. It was by no means a dishonorable match for the daughter of Prince Chunnan's mansion. The Empress Dowager said nothing about it. She only told me, nowadays, the Empress takes such good care of herself that you look no different from a maiden in her teens. But no one can stay young forever. When you grow old and your beauty fades, not to mention the Emperor, even you yourself will not be able to bear the sight. Sooner or later, new faces will enter this inner palace. The Empress would do well to prepare for that day now. Don't wait until it's too late to quarrel with the Emperor. By then, it will be useless, and will only breed his disgust. She stopped there, her meaning clear. I did not argue with her. I bowed respectfully and took my leave. Walking out of the Sinning Palace, I stared at the red brick and glazed tiles on the palace walls, feeling a sudden sense of disorientation. 10 years. I had been entangled with Fu Yang for 10 years, spending more than half of my life by his side, when the day came that new concubines entered the palace. Could I really greet them with a smile? In autumn, I accompanied Fu Yang on a tour of the south of the Yangtze River to inspect the people's livelihood. The Crown Prince was only 12 years old, left behind in the capital. Even with Prince Ning assisting him, he was still quite dejected. Son wants to go with Father Emperor and Mother Empress. This is not a pleasure trip. Your little sister is not going either. What would you do there? I asked, amused. Stay here and learn diligently from Uncle Ning. Mother will be back in 2 months. By then, I don't want to hear any nonsense about the Crown Prince being unfit to govern. I won't, he promised me earnestly. Son will definitely learn humbly from Uncle Wang, and will not let Mother down. The south of the Yangtze River was plagued by continuous rain, with few sunny days. Fu Yang was busy every day inspecting the local government affairs, having little time to accompany me. Staying in the prefect's mansion, I spent my days chatting idly with the prefect's wife out of boredom. The prefect's wife talked enthusiastically about her tactics for managing the inner household, not forgetting to flatter me. There are truly few men in this world as devoted and affectionate as His Imperial Majesty. I heard that the Hangzhou Textile Commissioner presented a foreign beauty to His Imperial Majesty yesterday. But His Imperial Majesty said that the Empress does not like the scent of powder, and refused to let the woman come near him. The love His Imperial Majesty has for the Empress is truly the envy of women all over the world. I smiled. I did not respond. On the way back to the capital, we were ambushed by assassins. They seemed like ordinary bandits, yet they were not. Every strike was aimed directly at the carriage carrying Fu Yang. In the chaos, Fu Yang was shot by an arrow while protecting me. The poison spreading rapidly through his body, rendering him unconscious. Gritting my teeth, I ordered the hidden guards to carry him off the carriage and roll into the forest, pretending to be dead to fool the bandits. But Your Highness, do as I say, I snapped, my voice trembling with resolve. The Crown Prince is still young, His Imperial Majesty cannot afford to die, the country cannot be without an emperor, your mission is to protect His Imperial Majesty's safety, do you understand? The hidden guards nodded, tears streaming down their faces. I drove the carriage at a frantic pace along the official road, luring the bandits away. Seeing the cliff looming ahead, the horses slowed down, about to stop. I bit down hard on my lip. We cannot stop. We cannot let the bandits catch up and discover that Fu Yang is not in this carriage. Closing my eyes tightly, I pulled out the hairpin from the top of my head, my fingers trembling. I stabbed it into the horse's hindquarters. With a deafening crash, the carriage plummeted off the cliff. In the 13th year of the Qianyuan reign, the Hangzhou textile commissioner, having embezzled hundreds of thousands of taels of silver, was discovered by the emperor during his southern tour. In a panic, he colluded with bandits to assassinate the emperor. The empress sacrificed her life to save the emperor, her body never to be found. Upon hearing the news, the crown prince fainted on the spot. The emperor was overcome with grief and rage, executing thousands of officials in Hangzhou, once a prosperous and bustling city. Hangzhou was reduced to a river of blood, with no one daring to speak out. I did not die. By some miracle, someone had found me at the bottom of the cliff. I lay in bed for 3 months, barely clinging to life. My rescuer was the illegitimate daughter of Prince Chunnan's mansion, banished to the countryside by the main wife of the family. She had learned medicine since childhood, and it was her skills that saved my life. She had no idea of my true identity. She only thought of me as a confused fool who had accidentally fallen off the cliff, doing a good deed out of kindness. At first, I thought that once I recovered, I would return to the palace and reward her generously. But later, after living in the mountains for a long time, I couldn't help but wonder, did I really want to go back to the palace? The empress who died saving the emperor, my reputation had never been better. The censors who once accused me of being a seductress who bewitched the emperor now praised me for my loyalty, filial piety, integrity, and righteousness, hailing me as a model for women all over the world. The stain that had once tarnished the crown prince's reputation because of my jealousy and immorality was finally wiped clean. Fu Yang would be haunted by guilt over me for the rest of his life. The positions of my father and brothers in the court were now more secure than ever. From an empress who could be discarded by the emperor at any moment, I had become the eternal white moonlight in his heart, someone no one dared to disrespect. Dying at the peak of Fu Yang's love for me seemed far more useful than living to grow old and wither. Without waiting for my beauty to fade, I could exit Fu Yang's world with dignity. In the most unforgettable way possible. Moreover, this was the freedom I had longed for 2 lifetimes, something I had thought I had lost forever, yet it had come back to me after I had accepted my fate. No more 4 walls closing me in, no more tedious rules and regulations, no more green glazed tiles stained with blood, no more suppressing my true nature to be the perfect empress. I did not want to go back to the palace, Fu Yang, the children. The Mu family. I no longer wanted to be responsible for any of them. Given a second chance at life, I wanted to live for myself. To truly live, I feigned amnesia, staying with the illegitimate daughter of Prince Chunnan's mansion to learn medical skills. Her name was Lin Wn. She had a gentle and agreeable temperament. Learning that I had nowhere else to go, she kindly took me in. You can stay with me, help me sort the medicinal herbs. She taught me medical theory and acupuncture, taking me with her to treat patients in the countryside. Gradually, I, a doctor who had only started learning halfway through my life, became capable of healing people on my own. After healing another impoverished elderly man, I bid farewell to Lin Wn, saying I wanted to go out and see the world. Lin Wn did not try to stop me. She simply packed me a large supply of dry rations and gave me 5 taels of broken silver. Meeting you was fate. From now on, we part ways, free to live our own lives. What becomes of us depends on our own destiny. May you be safe, happy, and blessed with all good fortune. I knelt down and kowtowed to her as a gesture of gratitude. I decided to head south, to find my maternal grandfather in the southern borderlands. Traveling from town to town, practicing medicine and treating the sick, I witnessed the hardships and diverse lives of the common people. Only then did I truly understand the 4 words written in the court memorials: famine, people eat each other. Those 4 simple characters encapsulated the unspeakable suffering of the people, struggling to survive in abject destitution. On the day I arrived at my grandfather's mansion in the southern borderlands, my clothes were tattered, my shoes had 2 large holes, I wore a brown hat, and my face was covered in grime and soot. For convenience, I had coiled my long hair and tucked it into the hat, dressed in men's clothing, and carried a walking stick and a chipped bowl. I knocked on the window of the gatehouse. The gatekeeper was impatient, wanting to chase me away. I gave him a paper-cut window decoration and told him to take it to the old master. Perhaps my words sounded mysterious enough to fool him, because he actually went inside to deliver my message. After a long while, he returned, eyeing me suspiciously as he led me to the reception hall. My grandfather was already waiting there. He recognized me at a glance, and regardless of my dirty appearance, he pulled me into his arms and burst into tears. After a long while, he came to his senses and proceeded to scold me fiercely for being reckless. Faking your own death is a crime of treason punishable by the execution of your entire family. Do you realize that? You are being utterly foolish. The southern borderlands are thousands of miles away from the capital. He will never find out, I said nonchalantly. Besides, it has already been 3 years, he has probably forgotten about me long ago. Grandfather, it took me 3 years to walk from Hangzhou to the southern borderlands. Is scolding me all you have to say? You, he sputtered, too angry to form coherent words. But there was nothing he could do. He ordered the steward to take me down to change my clothes, and instructed the household to claim that I was a distant relative who had come to seek refuge. He also made me wear a veil whenever I went out. He even sent people to investigate how I had spent the past 3 years. I kindly reminded him, Grandfather, don't bother investigating, it's not good news. He glared at me, once again calling me foolish. I pouted my lips. Even though the past 3 years had been difficult and full of hardships, and I had narrowly escaped being captured by bandits several times, I had no regrets. After living a sheltered life in the palace, isolated from the sufferings of the world, I had viewed people and things through a biased lens. Only by seeing and experiencing the world firsthand did I come to understand the prosperity and decay that lay beneath the aristocratic family's opulent facades. Only then did I realize that beneath the splendor of the imperial court lay the bones of countless common people. In the years since Fu Yang ascended the throne, he had worked tirelessly to weaken the power of the aristocratic families, reducing taxes and corvée labor. He had remained unwavering despite facing numerous obstacles. Even the Mu family had voluntarily donated land to the people and reduced its influence, striving to avoid his wrath. I had never thought much of it before, but now, I realized that Fu Yang truly had some genuine capabilities. In my grandfather's mansion, all the elder sisters I had once been close to were now married and gone. Only teenage girls remained, who did not recognize me and merely regarded me as a distant relative. They chatted away, chatting with me excitedly. My eldest uncle's youngest daughter said dejectedly that she would be entering the palace to serve the emperor after the new year. Leaving her home thousands of miles behind, she wondered if she would ever be able to adapt to life in the palace. At that moment, I could only think that Fu Yang had gone mad. What did he want with my cousin in the palace? I asked around subtly, and only then did I learn the truth. After my death, Fu Yang had been inconsolable for a year. Then, suddenly, he had summoned my illegitimate half-sister from the family temple and bestowed upon her the title of noble consort. Since then, aristocratic families had scrambled to send their daughters to the palace, and he had accepted them all without hesitation. The crown prince had quarreled with him several times over this, moving to live in the Eastern Palace with Princess Yunyang, and their once close father-son bond had broken down completely. Although the crown prince is the son of the empress's cousin, the current noble consort Mu is an illegitimate daughter, not born to auntie. She does not have the blood of the southern borderlands flowing through her veins. Father is sending me to the palace to look after the crown prince and safeguard the interests of the southern borderlands. My young cousin explained. She also secretly told me, the emperor has hundreds of concubines in his harem, but in the past 2 years, Not a single one has become pregnant. Rumors are spreading among the aristocratic families that noble consort Mu, in order to secure the crown prince's position, has forbidden the other concubines from conceiving. She forces them to drink infertility potions as soon as they enter the palace. She is extremely cruel and vicious. She was almost in tears as she spoke. I listened in stunned silence. That night, my grandfather came to see me. I asked him why he was sending my cousin to the palace. He sighed deeply. You don't know how ruthless that illegitimate half-sister of yours is. As soon as she entered the palace, she forced your father to elevate her birth mother to the status of legal wife. The emperor dotes on her greatly, making her the most powerful woman in the harem, so much so that even the crown prince has to avoid her. Your uncle is afraid that if she gives birth to her own son in the future, she will harm the crown prince. That is why he is sending that girl here to the palace to keep an eye on things and help protect the crown prince. My heart sank deeper and deeper. The joy of reuniting with my family faded away. I wanted nothing more than to confront Fu Yang and demand to know what on earth he was thinking. Even if he had to fall for someone else, couldn't he have chosen a woman with a decent character? Why did he have to dote on a woman who posed a threat to the crown prince? It had only been 3 years, and already he had filled his harem with 3,000 beauties, accepting everyone who came his way, and he even favored that brainless half-sister of mine. I suddenly felt that something was wrong. No. This was not like him at all. My palms broke out in a cold sweat. A sudden thought occurred to me, and I asked my grandfather, did the Prince Chunnan's mansion send anyone to the palace? It seems they did, a long time ago. An illegitimate daughter who had been raised in the countryside, my grandfather replied. Trying to recall, that illegitimate daughter did not want to enter the palace. Forced by the Empress Dowager to perform a dance for the emperor, she tried to assassinate him in public. She should have been executed on the spot, but no one knows what she said to the emperor. Instead of killing her, he actually rewarded her with 10,000 taels of gold. Oh right. It was from that moment on that the emperor conferred the title of noble consort on your half-sister and began taking in numerous concubines. My grandfather looked at me, also realizing something, and the smile faded from his face. Why, did she have some connection to you? Connection? It was more than just a connection. I closed my eyes in despair. I was doomed. Fu Yang definitely knew I was still alive. There were probably spies waiting outside the mansion in the southern borderlands to capture me. I immediately put on that tattered set of clothes, ready to flee, but my grandfather stopped me. The entire land under heaven belongs to the emperor. Where can you run? But I cannot let him capture me, I cried, by faking my death and not telling him I was alive. I have already crossed the line and angered him beyond measure. If I am caught, he will surely kill me. I will die. I cannot go back. You have already entered this mansion. If you have been recognized, there are countless spies waiting outside to arrest you. There is no escaping. My grandfather sighed, warning. Since I was a child, I have taught you the duties between ruler and subject, the importance of family and country, but I forgot to tell you one thing. Humans are driven by 7 emotions and 6 desires. Love is the rarest thing in this world, and also the most fragile, unable to withstand betrayal. During these 3 years you have been dead. The Mu family, the southern borderlands, and even the crown prince have not had an easy time of it. Your mother weeps every day. Yunyang cries for her mother every night. The crown prince lost his mother when he was only 12 years old. You have been far too selfish and willful. He stood up, patting me gently on the shoulder, warning, you cannot keep running away forever. You are a daughter of the Mu family. You cannot spend the rest of your life hiding from your parents, from the crown prince, from Yunyang. Since you are alive, you owe it to them to go back and face them, to clear up the misunderstanding. It is far better than living as a beggar on the streets, begging for scraps to survive. Grandfather, a sudden sense of foreboding washed over me. I turned around. And sure enough, I saw 2 hidden guards wearing black veils kneeling on the ground, bowing deeply to me. We have been ordered by His Imperial Majesty's oral decree to escort Her Majesty the Empress back to the palace. I am not the Empress, and I will not go back with you. My face turned pale. I instinctively tried to run, but my grandfather grabbed my wrist tightly. I begged him through tears, Grandfather, I really cannot go back. I have been so happy living out here in the world. I do not want to return to the palace. Please help me. Warning, my grandfather said, his tone firm and unyielding. The emperor already knows you are in the southern borderlands. You have no choice but to go back. You must go back. The southern borderlands need their empress. The crown prince needs his mother. Yunyang needs her mother. Be a good girl. Grandfather will prepare your favorite Osmanthus cakes for you to take on the journey. I had been born and raised by my grandfather in the southern borderlands until I was 13 years old. When I was sent to the capital, grandfather had always been more important to me than my own parents. The southern borderlands were my hometown, the place I had dreamed of returning to, and the person I loved the most in this world had just betrayed me. On the carriage ride back to the capital, I drifted in and out of consciousness, swaying along with the carriage, lost in a daze. Not knowing what day or time it was, suddenly, I heard a hidden guard's voice reporting from outside. The crown prince is waiting at the post station ahead to escort Her Majesty back to the palace. I snapped back to my senses, saying without hesitation, "Tell him to leave, I do not want to see him." I could not bear to let my child see me like this, to prevent me from escaping, and also, I suspected, to humiliate me deliberately. Fu Yang had ordered my hands to be bound with hemp rope. Under the thick quilt, my legs were shackled together with golden chains attached to a small bell, which I was not allowed to remove even when sleeping. I could not let my children see me in such a pitiful state. The hidden guard fell silent. After a long while, a clear, youthful voice sounded from outside the carriage. "Mother Empress." It was Hanger. I clenched my palms tightly, my heart wrenching, as I said instinctively, "Do not come in." He did not enter. Instead, he dismissed the hidden guards and moved closer to the carriage curtain, speaking in a soft voice that only I could hear. "Mother Empress, do you want to leave? Son can help you escape." Mother Empress is not happy with Father Emperor. Son can feel it. Son wants Mother Empress to be happy, just as Mother Empress has always wanted Son to be happy. Son will take good care of Yunyang. Son will choose a good husband for her, ensuring that she will never have to live a life of pain like Mother Empress, trapped in a life she does not want, all for the sake of her children. The 16-year-old boy, not yet formally crowned as an adult, sat outside the carriage, speaking to me through the fabric curtain in a quiet, steady voice. "Mother Empress, Son misses you very much." Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. It felt as if I had been transported back to the fire in my previous life, watching him rush in, screaming my name, desperate to save me, yet utterly powerless to do so. "Hunger, Auntie was right. Mother Empress never wanted to give birth to Son. Son knows," he said softly. "That is why Son has always envied Yunyang. She is the child Mother Empress wanted to have, born with Mother Empress's blessings." He paused for a moment before continuing. "Actually, last year, when Son went to Linjiang Prefecture to investigate a case, Son saw Mother Empress. Mother Empress was helping an elderly vegetable seller take his pulse, and you were smiling so happily. Son has never seen Mother Empress smile like that in the palace." At that moment, Son thought to himself, "Mother Empress must be this happy forever." The clash of swords and blades erupted all around the carriage, accompanied by the hidden guards' shouts of anger, their cries of agony, and the dull thuds of bodies hitting the ground. After a short while, a figure approached and said to the Crown Prince, "Your Highness, all are dealt with." He took a set of keys from the man's hand and passed them through the carriage curtain. "Mother Empress, unlock the chains." I closed my eyes briefly. "Give me a knife as well, as you wish." By the time I had hacked through the hemp rope binding my hands and freed my legs from the chains, then stepped out of the carriage, the grass was littered with corpses. The Crown Prince stood there beneath the moonlight, clad in a pale silver python-embroidered robe, the jade pendant gifted by Prince Ning hanging at his waist. The young man looked at me with a clear, longing gaze in his eyes, his voice choked with emotion. "Mother Empress." I stepped forward and pulled him into my arms. He hugged me back tightly, fiercely. After a long while, he wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. "Son has prepared a carriage for Mother Empress. Please leave quickly." "What about you? If I go, Son is fully capable of protecting himself. Do not worry about me, Mother Empress." He urged me anxiously to hurry. The carriage he had prepared for me was understated yet luxurious. Inside, it was filled with countless deeds to houses and lands, over a dozen hidden guards disguised as escorts, and even 2 maids to attend to me. Yet as I stared at the splatters of blood on his python robe, my feet felt rooted to the ground, impossible to move. I knew better than anyone just how ruthless Fu Yang could be. Even if Heng'er was his only son, letting me escape would surely earn him a severe punishment. It was laughable, really. The family members I had fought so hard to see again had treated me like a tool to curry favor with Fu Yang, while the crown prince, whom I had neglected since he was a child, whom I would have abandoned without a second thought when I grew up, was willing to incur Fu Yang's wrath, all to let me live a happy life. Forget it. Heng'er, I had barely begun to speak when the area was suddenly flooded with bright lights. In the gusts of evening wind, imperial guards emerged from all sides, surrounding Heng'er and me completely. From the only remaining gap, a pair of elegantly dressed figures walked forward, Fu Yang, and my illegitimate half-sister. Your Imperial Majesty, elder sister truly has no desire to return to the palace. Why must you make things difficult for her? Though elder sister committed the heinous crime of deceiving the emperor, she is still this concubine's own elder sister. For this concubine's sake, Your Imperial Majesty, could you not punish her lightly? In the quiet meadow, only my half-sister's voice echoed. Fu Yang stared at me, his expression dark and stormy. Heng'er stepped in front of me, meeting his gaze without an ounce of fear. I heard Fu Yang let out a cold, mocking laugh. In that familiar, icy voice of his, he said, "The crown prince colluded with a criminal to escape. His moral character is lacking, making him unfit for his duties. From this day forth, he is stripped of his title as crown prince, and is to be expelled from the Eastern Palace." As a warning to all, my head snapped up to look at him. My eyes met Fu Yang's cold, piercing gaze head-on. My half-sister giggled beside him. Oh my, elder sister has truly committed a grave offense this time, with the crown prince deposed. I wonder what will become of the Mu family and the southern borderlands. No need for all this trouble, I said suddenly. If your Imperial Majesty resents that I did not die, then I shall die once and for all. But the crown prince acted only out of filial piety, longing for his mother. He is the most innocent of all. I beg your Imperial Majesty, do not implicate him in this. Having said that, I looked at Fu Yang, a wave of sorrow washing over me, even though my heart was filled with resentment. At this moment, everything seemed to calm down. I no longer wanted to think about anything. I told him, every word clear and deliberate, all the grievances and enmity between us. When I die, they shall all be wiped away, once and for all. Fu Yang, I wish you to meet another beloved in the days to come, to fulfill all your desires, and to go down in history as a wise and virtuous emperor. In the next life, I never want to meet you again. With that, I raised the knife and sliced it across my neck. Blood spurted out. I heard the crown prince's shrill scream of horror. I heard my half-sister's annoying shriek, and Fu Yang's infuriated roar. It sounded like he was saying, if I dared to die, he would make the Mu family and the entire southern borderlands mansion bury me. I could not help but want to laugh. Fool. Once I was dead, how could I possibly care about the fates of others? Yet I did not die. My luck was so great, it was enough to make anyone envious. And once again, it was Miss Lin Wn who saved my life. I lay in bed for months, drinking kanji every day until the mere sight of it made my stomach churn. Every time I tried to spit it out, Lin Wn would walk over and gently tell me, "Please, just eat a little. I never wanted to live in the first place." I said listlessly, "Why did you bother saving me? I was only doing my duty as a doctor." She replied, checking my wound and rebandaging it with a soft voice, "The crown prince and the princess are both waiting for you. Your Majesty, even if it is only for their sake, you should fight to live." The place where I was recovering was neither the palace nor the Mu family mansion. It seemed to be a secluded villa belonging to the Prince Chunnan's mansion on the outskirts of the capital, a place specifically for Lin Wn to live. Once I was well enough to get out of bed, I looked around, breathing in the scent of medicinal herbs that filled the air everywhere, and sighed. "You really do love practicing medicine, don't you?" Her hands paused as she ground herbs. She turned to look at me, apologetic. Speaking of which, I am truly sorry for what I did to you. I have practiced medicine since I was a child, longing to heal the sick and help the suffering. I never wanted to be trapped in the palace. That day in the palace, I happened to see your portrait and realized who you were. So I made a deal with the emperor, using you as leverage. What I did was wrong, and I have no excuses. Whether you wish to kill me or beat me, whatever your majesty decides, I will accept it. I fell silent for a moment, then shook my head. You have saved my life twice. I have no right to pass judgment on you. The empress is already dead. I am no longer an empress, only a doctor whose skills pale in comparison to yours. You do not need to be so formal with me. Lin Wn looked at me in surprise. You do not know what? While you were unconscious, the emperor issued an imperial edict to the entire nation, stating that the empress had not passed away. She had merely fallen into a coma due to severe injuries, and had only recently woken up. He has restored your status as empress, dismissed all the concubines in the harem, and is waiting for you to recover before coming to take you back to the palace. Me, after going to all this trouble, he still refuses to let me go, I said. Feeling a surge of despair, if I have to go back to the palace again, to live that confined, suffocating life, I would rather die a quick death. Lin Wn fell silent, clearly unsure of how to handle the situation. She could only shrug her shoulders. I have already sent word to him that you have woken up. He should be coming here tonight. No matter how complicated your relationship with him is, after all this chaos, after dragging so many people into it, you owe it to yourselves to have a resolution. You cannot keep running away forever. Besides, I do not think he will dare to force you again. After everything that has happened, she gestured to the cotton bandage wrapped around my neck. You have no idea, the day he carried you here, begging me to save your life, the emperor, who is usually so lofty and untouchable, he knelt down in front of me. Right here, he said that if I could save you, he would even give up his throne for me. Lin Wn sighed. I really will never understand the two of you. Neither of you seem like heartless people. How did things end up like this? When Fu Yang arrived, I was helping Lin Wn sort medicinal herbs, having finished categorizing them. I touched my still aching neck, wrapped in its cotton bandage, and turned around to see Fu Yang standing at the door. He was dressed in casual attire, his hair tied up with a jade crown, a 9-dragon jade pendant hanging at his waist. He looked like a young nobleman from the capital. His eyes were fixed on me, unblinking. His gaze fell on the bandage around my neck, then darted away as if burned. He had not deposed the crown prince that day. He had been so furious that he had said those words purely to scare me, never imagining that it would drive me to attempt suicide right in front of him. He probably never expected that outcome. I did not beat around the bush with him, telling him straight out, I will not go back to the palace with you. Your empress is already dead, once at the bottom of the cliff, once in that carriage. Fu Yang, let me go. I spoke with utter exhaustion. Fu Yang's lips trembled, but for once, he could not bring himself to say the usual threatening words. His imperial power allowed him to do things that ordinary people could not even dream of, but even with all that power, he could not cheat death. My body could not withstand any more of his threats and torments. You do not have to go back to the palace. I will not force you again, he said in a low voice. Wanwan, will you wait for me, just for a little while longer? In a few more years, when the crown prince is able to stand on his own 2 feet, I will abdicate the throne to him. Then, just like Prince Ning once promised you, I will accompany you, traveling the world. Is that all right, Fu Yang? Wanwan, he pleaded with me, his voice breaking. Do not refuse me so easily. Just think about it, will you? These past 3 years, I have missed you so much. He said the exact same words as the crown prince. The first year after I learned you were still alive, I thought to myself, if you ever came back, I would make you pay for it, using every means at my disposal to punish you. The second year, I stayed in Phoenix Perch Palace every night, telling myself that if you came back, I would just scold you a little. As long as you admitted your mistake, that would be enough. Later, I did not even want to scold you anymore. I only wanted to see your face again, to hear your voice. I am not a good man, Wanwan, but I do love you, truly, deeply. I do not understand where this feeling came from, or why it exists. But from the very first moment I laid eyes on you, I knew it could only ever be you, for the rest of my life," he whispered, his voice filled with desperation. "Wanwan, please, have mercy on me." This was the first time he had ever laid bare his feelings to me so openly, the first time he had told me, straight out, that he loved me, the proud, noble emperor lowering his lofty head in despair, begging for the mercy of the woman he loved. I sighed. Fu Yang, honestly, I did not know what to say. It felt like nothing I could say would be right. In the end, I could only ask him to leave first. "Let me think about it carefully," I said, pausing for a moment. "Also, those 100 or so concubines in your harem, they are all daughters of aristocratic families. You cannot just dismiss them arbitrarily, leaving them with no means to support themselves for the rest of their lives. For those who have already served you, let them stay in the palace if they wish. For those who have not, ask them what they want, whether they wish to become female officials in the palace, or to be granted marriages to ministers. Let them decide their own fates. Do not let any more trouble arise from this." Fu Yang fell silent for a moment, then said weakly, "I never touched any of them. At first, I let them enter the palace out of spite, wanting to see if I could ever feel anything for anyone other than you. Later, I just could not be bothered to deal with them." He looked a little guilty as he said this, scratching the bridge of his nose. "What do you want to do with that half-sister of yours? Is she not your Imperial Majesty's beloved noble consort?" I said coolly. "What right do I have to decide her fate?" "Wanwan, give her a length of white silk," I said flatly. "I hate it when people try to disgust me." Fu Yang nodded, agreeing without any hesitation or argument. After he left, Lin Wn walked out of the house, a thoughtful look on her face. "I think you and him are actually quite similar." "Similar? In what way?" "You are both completely mad," she said matter-of-factly. "And you are both mad with great flair." "Huh," I stared at her in surprise. "Why would you say that? The love drama between the two of you has dragged so many innocent noble ladies into the mess. In the end, you just dismiss them with a single order. If you didn't have a shred of conscience left, their lives would have been ruined forever," Lin Wn said. "It just goes to show your emperor is no good man." She was right, he truly wasn't, and I had no intention of ever getting entangled with him again. Abdicate the throne, travel the world with me, that was still years away. I'd crossed that bridge when I came to it. These past 3 years, I'd tasted the sweetness of freedom and seen so much of the world. Watching the words and pictures in books come alive in the real world, it was a truly wonderful feeling. For the rest of my life, I could never trap myself in that imperial city again. "Actually, you and I are not the same," Lin Wn said. "I love medicine. I want to heal people and save the world. That's why I didn't want to enter the palace. But you just love to wander, to chase new things. You hate staying in one place for too long, where everything never changes." I thought she was absolutely right. You only live once. You have to see different things, experience different joys, otherwise, what's the point of living? I said, "Spending your entire life trapped in the deep palace, knowing every crack in every brick by heart, how boring would that be?" Lin Wn laughed. "The Mu family has been an aristocratic clan for 100 years, stuffy and rigid beyond compare. To raise someone as free-spirited as you, it's truly a miracle." When the Mu family was mentioned, I couldn't help but think of the southern borderlands. Of the family members I had once trusted completely, who had stabbed me in the back when I least expected it. The smile faded from my face. Speaking of the southern borderlands, something interesting had happened recently. The crown prince had recently undergone his coming-of-age ceremony and would soon choose a crown princess. My grandfather had sent me a letter via carrier pigeon, ordering me to select his young granddaughter, the same little girl who was supposed to enter the palace to serve Fu Yang as the crown princess. Their ages were indeed well matched, but I had made a point to ask the crown prince if he had anyone in mind. The crown prince was watching Yunyang practice her calligraphy. He didn't even look up when he answered, "Son has no one he fancies. The decision is entirely up to Mother Empress." He paused for a moment, then added, "Father Emperor has made many mistakes because of his obsession with Mother Empress. In the end, it was all because he indulged in love too deeply. As the Emperor's strategy states, those who rule must not wallow in love, they must spread their favor evenly among the 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, prioritizing the continuation of the imperial bloodline above all else. In this world, only Mother Empress and Yunyang are truly important to Sun, all other women. Sun does not care about them in the slightest. I listened, utterly dumbfounded. Yunyang put down her brush just then, rubbing her sore wrists. She glanced at me secretly, then acted coyly. Mother Empress, Sun is so tired. Sun doesn't want to write anymore. No, the Crown Prince said sternly. You must finish 100 big characters today. No dinner until you're done, Mother Empress. It's no use begging anyone, the Crown Prince said, patting her head gently. His voice softened as he saw her unhappy expression. Finish quickly, and brother will take you to buy sugar-coated whores. Only then did Yunyang pout and pick up her brush again. The Crown Prince said he had no one he fancies. After thinking about it, I decided not to rush into choosing a crown princess for him. What if he met someone he loved later, only to find the position of crown princess already taken? That would be awkward for everyone. My grandfather sent another letter urging me to make progress. I wrote back to him. The selection of the crown princess is a matter of great importance. The southern borderlands mansion is located in a remote area, far from the imperial court. I am afraid it is not qualified to provide the crown prince with his primary consort. Would grandfather be willing to let his granddaughter become a secondary consort instead? I waited a long time for a reply. Finally, a single character came back. Agreed. At that moment, I felt a little ridiculous. What exactly had I been hoping for? I wrote one last letter to my grandfather. Since becoming empress, Wanning has died twice. Once, I died saving His Imperial Majesty at the bottom of the cliff, securing the Mu family's position in the court, repaying the kindness the Mu family has shown me. The second time, I died to sever ties with my past, on the eve of being captured and taken back to the capital. Sacrificing myself to protect the Crown Prince and preserve the bloodline of the southern borderlands, by some miracle, I survived both near-death experiences. It is truly a blessing bestowed by heaven. From now on, I owe nothing more to the Mu family, nothing more to the southern borderlands. I am free and unshackled. Everything I do, everything I say, will be for myself alone. I wish grandfather good health and peace for the years to come, the second year of my recovery at Linwan's villa. My wounds finally healed completely. I set off for Shu, eager to see the treacherous, mist-shrouded paths of the Shu roads and the tales of intrigue that surrounded them. Fu Yang sent many guards to protect me, and also gave me a large supply of pills to ward off poisonous insects and curses. As I was leaving, I looked at his pale face and suddenly felt like laughing. It's all right, I said, stepping forward to hug him. If I don't come back, it will be the will of heaven. It will be my own choice. Fu Yang, if I can come back, I promise I will. I will wait for the day when Hanger ascends the throne. He suddenly hugged me tightly, his voice choking with tears. I'm sorry, you must come back. If you don't, I truly do not know how I will go on living. Don't say that, Fu Yang, I said, smiling gently at him. You are the emperor, a great and powerful ruler. A ruler should not wallow in love. It is a truth even Hanger understands. You should understand it too. Should you not? The light in his eyes shattered. Piece by piece, I boarded the carriage bound for Shu, lifting the curtain to gaze at the emerald green wheat seedlings outside. A profound sense of peace settled in my heart. I had lived 2 lifetimes. Finally, at the end of my story, I had obtained what I had wanted most from the very beginning. The road had been long and winding, filled with hardships and pain, but in the end, I had gotten it. That was a good thing, wasn't it?